Hi, Genies. It's Fisher. Before we get started, just a quick thank you for getting Extreme Genes to where it is today. We're on radio stations all over America, and our podcast is growing exponentially. I'm often asked, what can I do to support Extreme Genes? Well, that's easy. Become a part of our Extreme Genes Facebook community and like our page. Share the podcast with your friends. Follow us on Twitter. And most importantly, support our sponsors through links on our website. They're the best in the business. Thanks again. Now let's get on to this week's podcast.
Are you digging up the dirt on your dead? Want to find out how? Hear the latest on new family history sources and websites with interesting and fun guests and experts. Find out what other people have been learning about their ancestors. From kings to thieves, inventors to farmers, nothing that's been discovered should surprise us anymore, but it always does. Find out what we mean. Great family history stories and information are on the way now with Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and extremegenes.com.
Yeah, I don't think Mother knew about this.
Uncle Marvin was strangled by his own beard.
Yep, never saw it coming.
Hello, Genies, and welcome to another spine-tingling episode of Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, America's family history show. I am Fisher, the radio root sleuth on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And we are in a countdown right now to Roots Tech, which is the largest family history convention in the world. It's coming up in Salt Lake City, Utah on February 3rd through 6th. We are going to be there, and it is going to be so much fun. In fact, one of my guests today that we're going to be talking to later in the show is a keynote speaker at the Innovator Summit, which is the first day, Wednesday, February 3rd, talking about how to get your seniors comfortable with dealing with Facebook and other digital materials so they can further your family history experience. So it's going to be very valuable to hear what Ken Krogh has to say later in the show. Earlier than that, in about 8 or 10 minutes, we're going to be talking to Brent Ashworth. He lives in Provo, Utah, and he happens to have the Bible of Governor William Bradford of the Pilgrims. Yes, it was brought across on the Mayflower. If you're a descendant of the Bradfords, as many people are, or you're a descendant of any of the Mayflower people, you're going to want to hear what Brent Ashworth has to say about how he obtained it and what it means to him. Also, he talks about how to collect your ancestors, which is a great way to go. But right now, let's head out to Boston and talk to my good friend, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society, David Allen Lambert. Of course, you got AmericanAncestors.org as well. How are things in Beantown, David?
Well, we've got a little bit of snow and winters here, but Beantown is doing pretty well. How are things out your way?
All right, looking good. And, you know, we got so much going on right now. We've got our cruise coming up in September, our family history cruise, which is going to be out of Boston, going to Nova Scotia. And, of course, we're going to be lecturing on there, talking about the history of the area, the Revolution, the Patriots, the Loyalists. You descend from both, as I recall, right?
Oh, I get them on both sides of the battlefield, that's for sure.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Find out more, of course, about this on our Facebook page or extremegenes.com. What kind of stories do you have to us for Family Histoire News for today, my friend?
Well, nearly 325 years ago, the hysteria of the witchcraft trial gripped Massachusetts and the New England area, and it took that long for them to finally pinpoint where Gallows Hill is.
Really?
Yeah, some exciting news out of Salem. There's a project called the Gallows Hill Project, and 7 scholars spent the past 5 years using maps and research and ground-penetrating radar and over 1,000 documents to pinpoint where the execution of the Salem witches occurred. And they now know where it is. Proctor's Ledge is conveniently located near a Walgreens. So if you need to get film when you're going to go photograph your selfie at Gallows Hill,
right,
you can go around the corner. The thing that identified it was a crevice, essentially, in the glacial rock formation that basically is where they hastily buried the witchcraft victims. And it's hard to know what lies in the ground, but I'm sure archaeologists are going to tear into it as soon as the ground isn't frozen up here.
Wow.
See what might be there. So that's exciting.
Oh, it is. And, so many people have ties to the Salem witch trials. I run into them all the time. Can we go there? What's there to see? You have ties to it. My wife has ties to it. I have ties to it. And I'm sure many, many people listening right now do, whether they know it or not.
I have ancestors on both sides. I have accusers, I have an accused, and I also have an ancestor whose brother was a judge.
Wow.
And one of the people at RootStech, one of the keynotes, Doris Kearns-Goodwin, I did her genealogy a couple of years ago, and sure enough, she has two people, including my ancestor, Mary Bradbury, who's accused of being a witch, as well as Roger Toothaker, who unfortunately died in prison after being accused as a witch. So that's exciting, and I'm wondering if she's going to have some curiosity to go up to Salem to see the site as well.
That's going to be fun.
This time of year, people will get the stomach bug, and you're not feeling quite well. So it's interesting to know how long-lasting that will be. I talked about doing diaries, but the Iceman, who dates back to 5,300 years ago, found back in the early 2000s, they've dissected his stomach and done the genealogy, if you will, of the stomach bug by the parasites that are in his stomach, and they can trace human migration based upon this.
So they know where he lived.
Exactly.
And where he moved.
They have his mailing address yet, but it's interesting. It's interesting to think that what you carry with you, if you become an archaeological treasure someday, might tell your descendants what you had for lunch or what ails you. It's really fascinating to know that this man had so many problems with him. He had gum disease, heart disease, gallbladder stones, Lyme disease, and now including parasites. But because he was frozen, they were using this stomach bug to trace ancient human migration.
Unbelievable.
Shocking news is we lost somebody from a time that you wouldn't even think there would be anybody. An infant by the name of Bill Delmonte, 110 years ago, as an infant, escaped with his family on a buckboard wagon out of the burning streets of San Francisco, has just died. 110 years old, Bill is the last survivor of the great San Francisco earthquake of 1906.
That is just crazy. My grandfather was in that as well. He was on the Oakland side of things and then went into San Francisco to help with the recovery efforts. And it's just amazing to think, wait a minute, there was a guy who just, as of a week ago, was still living from that? Incredible.
It really is amazing. Well, I can tell you about some genealogy open source software you might be interested in. Recently, I read on opensource.com a great little piece on 3 source genealogy tools for mapping your family tree. Essentially, with open source, you can manipulate the software and make it work for you, and other than just a regular packaged software piece. There are 3 of them available. One is called HuMo-Gen, another one is called Gramps, and the third one is called PHP, GedView, and WebTrees. And I'll have all of these hyperlinks available on the Facebook page for Extreme Genes, so check that out. And, of course, talking about technology, American Ancestors, again, is pushing your New Year's resolution by helping you do genealogy. So try out our Massachusetts Vital Records, New Hampshire Vital Records, and Vermont Vital Record databases I spoke about last week. All you have to simply do is go to AmericanAncestors.org, become a guest user to check it out.
All right, David, take care. Thanks for coming on. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a man who somehow obtained the Bible of Governor William Bradford of the Mayflower. We'll talk about his adventure in obtaining it and how he collects his family history. We'll talk to Brent Ashworth from Provo, Utah, coming up next in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Well, Genies, my personal family history researcher who sends me new information day and night has sent me some incredible new records and newspaper stories lately. Hi, it's Fisher, and the name of that researcher, by the way, is myheritage.com. It's the hardest working service in genealogy, looking for records of your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes, even while you're sleeping. How does it work? MyHeritage uses hundreds of algorithms to match your ancestors to over 5 billion records from around the world, and with 97% accuracy. That means no more wasting time figuring out whether or not a match really is a match. I hear from listeners all the time who are shocked with how much information is accurately found and then passed along. And now MyHeritage will translate your ancestors' names into English or any other language you like from foreign records. In fact, it works with over 40 languages. No one else does this. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned researcher, you need myheritage.com.
Here it comes, the 6th Annual Roots Tech Conference in Salt Lake City, Utah, February 3rd through 6, 2016, at the Salt Palace Convention Center. The conference, hosted by Family Search International, is the largest family history and technology conference in the world. This year's theme will be celebrating families across generations. It's the perfect place to be inspired to discover, preserve, and share family connections and stories across generations, past, present, and future. At Roots Tech, you'll find some 200 engaging classes with experts from all over the world. Enjoy daily sessions with well-known keynote speakers and learn all about the new tools available to help you in your journey in the massive exhibition hall. Passes start at $29. For more information and to register, visit rootstech.org. Hope to see you February 3rd through 6th in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andMe.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andMe.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andMe.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andMe.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andMe.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andMe.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andMe.com.
And welcome back to Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, the radio root sleuth. Always excited to meet my guests and introduce them to you. And this is a man I became acquainted with several years ago, who is a world-class collector. And many of the things that he collects has to do not only with his own family, but with many others. And Brent Ashworth is on the line with me from Provo, Utah right now. Hi, Brent. How are you? Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Scott?
Just great. And I'm excited to hear some of the things you've got, because I've never, ever really gotten totally under the hood with everything that you have, especially the things relating to families. Now, one of the things I know you're into, your family has a lot of Boy Scouts in them, right? All of them were Eagle Scouts. Your grandfather, your father, yourself, your kids. Tell us about that collection.
My grandfather, Paul Ashworth, was actually too old to be a scout, but he was one of the earliest scout members of committees that brought scouting in 1913 and received a Silver Beaver Award in 1947. So he was an early scouter, but more a leader. My father was the first Boy Scout in his troop to receive the Eagle. I received mine when I was 13. It was when John F. Kennedy was president back in 1962, and all 7 of my sons are Eagle Scouts. We actually opened a Boy Scout museum in 2000. We named it after the then oldest living Boy Scout who was living in Arizona at the time and was on the Late Show with David Letterman.
How old?
Wearing a scout uniform. We opened it on his 102nd birthday.
So what do you have in this Boy Scout collection?
Well, we've got thousands of things, actually. I probably have enough material to open a couple of Boy Scout museums. I inherited some things from family, such as the first U.S. Jamboree. My grandfather had a set of the newspapers that they issued back in 1937. I've got the journal of the very first Scoutmaster in Utah. The diary starts in the 1920s and runs up through 1935, when the first Boy Scout Jamboree in the United States was to be held on the Mall in Washington, D.C.
Right.
One of the neat things about it is one of the pages, he put a sticker from the Jamboree that was never held.
Oh, fun.
So it's kind of a rare piece. They held it 2 years later, 1937, on the Mall. I have a book signed by several of the local leaders that went back to that jamboree and took troops and so on with them.
And so it has particular meaning to you because of the Boy Scout connection that runs through, and now how many generations?
That's right,
4,
yeah.
right?
There's a lot of family history. That's right.
Or is it 5 at this point? Your kid's having kids.
We don't have an Eagle Scout grandson yet, but he's 14, and I think he's on his way.
He's pretty darn close. Now, you have a Bible, a couple of Bibles in your collection that I'm aware of. One in particular that I think could be of interest to many people listening because he has millions of descendants in this country, and that's William Bradford, the governor among the Pilgrims at Plymouth. You have the Bible that he brought across the ocean on the Mayflower.
Well, I have one of two. There's one in Pilgrim Hall, which is his Geneva Bible. I have his Calvin Bible, which he brought. I have an ancestor that came over the Mayflower too, John Alden. But I've always been interested in the Mayflower, so this Bible came up for sale, it's been 15 or 20 years ago at Christie's auction house in New York.
Wow.
In fact, it was the frontispiece of their catalog, and I didn't think I stood a chance on getting it. The history of this book is pretty ironclad because Bradford actually listed the books he brought over in his will, which we still have.
Right.
And that was published in Calvin on the Gospels, as it was called. It's a New Testament. Calvin's notes are interspersed with the New Testament. I know the history of this book, too. It was printed in Leyden, Holland, and that's where they were the separatists, the Pilgrims.
Are his family names in there?
No, he signed the book on the title page, and then he signed it partly on the board. Back then, the boards of the book were wooden. They were boards.
Yeah.
And so when I first got it, I got it at this auction. I was really shocked. It had been on display, I found out, at the New York Public Library in 1920. They did a big 300th anniversary for the landing of the Pilgrims in 1620
right.
At New York Public Library in 1920. And among the items that they had on display, which they knew they could document, was this New Testament that belonged to Bradford. The book itself has a history that we know a little beyond Bradford. One of the separatists that was there, a friend of his, Jesse DeForest, actually owned this book originally. It was published there in Leyden, probably on a Pilgrim press. It's in Dutch. It was published in 1602, and it says Leyden on it. And it was all in Dutch, and Jesse DeForest was going to bring it over, but he was on the other boat, one that...
the Speedwell.
The Speedwell, it didn't speed so well,
Right.
And they had to leave that there.
Yeah, it leaked well.
It leaked well. And they didn't have a lot of places for these folks aboard the Mayflower. They tried to take a few, but if you can imagine, the Mayflower ended up with 102 people on board, crammed on a deck. The ship was shorter in length than my home.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not the Marriott.
No, it was not.
What did that feel like for you the first time you held it?
Oh, I was thrilled. I mean, I was just ecstatic that I got the thing. It was expensive, but I didn't think my bid would make it, but I did. I got
your wife okay with that?
She's been a great support over the years. She really is. She's allowed me to do this, and it's been a lot of fun. It's something we've kind of worked on together over the years, but she's been a great supporter.
It kind of brings up a question I think a lot of people go through when they gather. I like to collect my family as well. I have a family Bible from the Fishers in the 1840s, and I have a bunch of daguerreotypes, and obviously most folks aren't going to come across some of the things that you've talked about. But the Boy Scout thing, for instance, I think is typical of a family history interest. Do you have some advice to people who would like to collect their family in particular or around their family interests?
Well, I think just being alert to opportunities as they come up. I had just one recent example. I had a dear cousin that we see once in a while, unfortunately mostly at funerals,
Right.
That wrote me an email a few months ago about a photo album that she'd seen that had come up for sale. And I don't know if it was on eBay or where it was. I can't remember exactly. And it had some photos we didn't know existed of our mutual great-grandfather and great-grandmother.
Wow.
That we'd never seen before. And this photo album was in perfect condition. The guy wanted a small amount for it. It really wasn't that expensive. And she sent it to me, and I immediately wrote on it and was able to pick it up. In fact, I haven't shown it to her yet. I told her I'd make copies, and I will for the rest of the family. But there were 4 or 5 photos in here of our great-grandparents that we'd never seen. They were young, and with the great-grandmother, there was even one before she was married, when she was a young girl in her teens. It's fabulous find, and occasionally you'll get tips from a relative, or if you're just on top of it yourself, you'll see things that might have something to do with your own family. And unfortunately, most of my family's papers were, at least on the Ashworth side, were lost. I located one little group that belonged to another family now, and they gave me permission to copy them, but because they were owned by a bunch of people, they couldn't agree on selling them. So
right, yes.
Original. At least I got the copies. And on my mother's side, it's really my grandmother that I need to blame for my collecting, because she saved about everything. This is my mother's mother. We called her Nana. And she died a year after I was born, so I've got a couple of pictures holding her, but I don't remember her. But I feel like I know her because she was such a collector, and she would save everything, little invitations to a dance or this or that. And I guess the garage in their home got so full of materials that when she passed away in 1950, my grandfather, I remember him saying one day when I was a kid, he sure wished he could pull his car in the garage.
Because he had that much stuff.
He didn't have the heart to go through her things. And when he passed away in 1956, the family, the 6 children, including my mother, who was the youngest, took all the stuff out of the garage and built a big fire out back and just started tossing everything in.
Oh.
And I was only 7 years old at the time, and I remember thinking how crazy this is. There's family history. There's all kinds of things going up in flames. In fact, I can still remember my grandpa's false teeth in the fire in the ashes. Isn't that weird? I asked my mother years later, I said, did you guys save anything of Grandma's? And she says, yeah, there was one box. It was up in the rafters of the garage. So when we moved the next year, I had your father go out and get it. But I pestered her until she let me go through it. And I found all kinds of family history.
What do you do with it all?
Well,
and what are you what are you going to do with it all?
Well, good question. That's the $64,000 question we used to call it. I've donated a lot of things to my church. There've been 130,000 items I took up on 2 missions at our church archives, and they kept about 33,000 or something of them altogether, including 9,000 documents. I've tried to give them to other libraries, university libraries here. As far as the core collection, we're trying to find a home for it, honestly. I'd rather not have to go back to auctions and things. Of course, I've got children that we've allowed to pick out favorite items for them. But the collection's gigantic. We're over 500,000 items now in the collection.
Oh, my goodness.
Many of them are books. There's 300,000 books alone in the collection. And so I've been trying to give away a lot of books and things. They don't do much use in storage,
Unbelievable.
But we've really been looking for a location where it could be put to better use. And we've been donating to big libraries, too. So we're looking for an eventual home for it. It may have to eventually be sold off. I certainly don't want it ended up in a fire or something.
No, you don't want it behind somebody's home with Grandpa's false teeth.
Exactly, yeah. So we're trying to find a little better location than that. It's been a labor of love over the years. Learned a lot about our family as a result of it. So.
Brent Ashworth, thank you so much for your time. What an amazing story. What a journey and what a collection. How lucky are you to be able to have some of these things in your lifetime?
Well, I feel really blessed. You bet. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on with us.
You bet. Anytime.
And coming up next, we're going to talk to a man who's an expert at helping you get your seniors comfortable with social media and other communication to further your family history. He's going to be a keynote speaker at Roots Tech. We'll talk to him in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Hovorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chart Masters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartMasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chart Masters today at FamilyChartMasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chart Masters will give the greatest care to your family history.
And welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes at ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. Very excited to be in the countdown, the final weeks until Roots Tech in Salt Lake City, Utah. It is the largest family history convention in America. And in fact, you're going to be able to watch it online or listen online. There's so much to follow there. And I'll be one of the bloggers keeping you in tune with what's happening. And I'm very excited right now to have Ken Krogh on the line with me right now. He's going to be one of the keynote speakers there. Now, which day are you speaking, Ken?
You know, I'm going to be there the first morning, Wednesday morning, talking more to the business side of the crowd, those who are going to be the exhibitors and so on. But I'm really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. And I know you've been to Roots Tech before because you are a family history nut, even though you are a tech guy. In fact, you've written many pieces for Forbes magazine. And I love your blog. I read about, for instance, how your mom passed this past year and all the things that she had taught you through the years. And the way you laid it out was very beautifully done.
Well, thank you. Yes, she's my favorite cheerleader.
Exactly. Well, let's talk a little about this because I think technology, especially for older people, is a very scary thing. In fact, I see a lot of people who, when I bring up the subject of just downloading an app, for instance, they step back. Oh, no, I don't do those kinds of things. So I'll often say, you know, if you really want to do this and you really want to be in tune with your kids, your grandkids, you need to learn how to do it and stop being afraid and step up and learn. So you have some great tips here on how to get involved in the technical side, the social media side of advancing people's family history. How do we get people comfortable with technology just from the basics, Ken?
You know, that's one of my favorite topics, Scott. I love to start family history social media groups. And I'll tell you what, those more senior folks who struggle a little bit, they've got the wisdom, they just don't have the knowledge on the social side. Well, the best place to do is go grab the kids and the grandkids and have them come over and shut the door and say, hey, I need some coaching here. And I would say start with Facebook, get me on, help me try it, and help me connect first with my family, and then help me reconnect with some of my old friends. And they just go to town. I have found it never takes more than about an hour to at least get them started and feeling good about it. And here's the key to all of social media in the family, and that is have some fun content in the middle that they can use. So find some of the older pictures, have them pasted on there, and then they can go out and start sharing that with family and friends. And what I have found is the best way to build rapport is find a picture with the other person you want to reconnect with in the picture with you. What a fun way to get started and get people going. So it's family history, but start with the current stuff, then work back. And that's how I always get started.
Yeah, or you do a side-by-side. Here's how we were and here's how we are. Of course, that might be too frightening for some of us, right?
Yeah, that's true. I caught chest-to-drawers disease, and it shows too much, where my chest fell to my drawers. So I don't like the side-by-side.
I understand that. Yeah. I was listening to a blog that you were doing, an audio blog, and you were talking about 31 days to learn. And I really like the concept of it. You know, I think many of us think of, well, take a class. But really, since we can do so much of this now at home, putting aside a period of just, say, the entire month of March and saying this entire month I'm going to devote to mastering something, what do you think those 31 days would be best devoted to?
That's what actually got me started, was a guy who wrote 31 Days to a Better Blog when I started my blog way back when. And it starts with the very basics of making sure you get your name. In the early days of the internet, it was some handle or something you'd hide behind. But nowadays, it's just, here's my name, I'm Ken Krogh. And then you start filling out your profile. You move from profile to learning how to put your content out there, which is your pictures and your write-up and your backstory. That's the human element, who you really are. That's what people want to see. And then learn how to connect, learn how to start a conversation through comments. A comment is where I make a comment on your site. A conversation is when you comment back.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest single milestone I have found, is when you finally figure out how to get people to respond. And here's sort of the secret. Just ask a question. And they'll start responding, and now you have a conversation. And those are the basics. I call it the core of social media.
Well, I think the old word would be interaction.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, otherwise it's just a one-way conversation.
Exactly. And you know that when you get people interacting and commenting, you're now official on social media, and then it gets really fun.
All right. Now, how about preserving some of the things that your grandparents or your aunts or uncles actually obtain from other relatives? Is there a way to do that that's simple?
Absolutely. And it's pretty funny. If people think they need fancy scanners and everything else, I say pull out the smartphone and just take a picture and pop it out there, whether it's a sculpture or photos or old documents. And that's my favorite place to start, is just with fun content that others in your community will be interested in, whether it's your family community, your old friends from high school or whatever. My favorite place for high school is go grab the yearbook.
Yes.
And go scan all those, we'll take pictures of those little comments that people wrote when they were a kid, put it out there and say, do you remember when you wrote that? And they said, I didn't write that. And say, yes, you did. It's right here.
Yeah, and there's the picture of it. I mean, there's no hiding from it. But it's good to preserve that for the long haul as well, maybe actually even printing it out or saving it into a special folder on a desktop, transferring it from the phone, so that ultimately you can create histories, or some of our seniors can create them for us, which is really the ultimate goal, is to preserve their stories. Because as the old saying goes, that when an individual passes away, a library is burned.
It's true. We found that with my mother. So many great stories. We captured some of them, but we didn't get them all. I wish we had.
Well, and how do you ever get them all, right? There's always something else out there. We have very large libraries in these heads. Then there's some hidden rooms in the back, too, that I don't think anybody ever accesses.
and some we probably shouldn't.
Exactly. So how do you get people to follow what you're doing? For instance, if you want to start a family history Facebook page and you want to attract more people, do you work from just the surname, or are you trying to just find cousins who you know, or are you trying to extend to many that you don't know? What's a simple way to get going with it and then expand from there?
I was pretty blessed to have a unique spelling of my last name, Krogue, and it was changed several generations back from the original spelling. So I grabbed the domain name Krogh.com, and then I started a Facebook group called the Krogh Clan, and I did that very thing. I looked for the early stories, the early content, and then I just started searching on the last name Krogh. I found people all over the United States that were direct descendants of our common ancestors that we had never met, never run across each other, and we pulled together a face-to-face event. So the basic strategies go from social media to digital media to remote conversations, which is a phone call, to a live interaction event where you get together. And we had an extended family reunion at the old homestead around Bear Lake, Idaho. It was so powerful. We found stories that were phenomenal. We marched up to the gravesite of our common ancestors, and it was one of the most beautiful events that I've had in my life.
That is great advice. I think really it's always been that way, whether it was sending a letter to somebody back in the old days to introduce yourself, to the phone call, to the face-to-face, to these experiences. But it's so much easier to do now if you just make the effort to learn how to do it.
It's so true. And like I said, tap those younger generations and get a little bit of coaching, and it won't take very long.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Ken. It's been great having you.
Thanks so much, Scott. I really appreciate sharing some time with you.
Ken is going to be such a great speaker at Roots Tech. Look forward to seeing him there, and you as well. All right, coming up next in 3 minutes from TMCplace.com, Tom Perry, our preservation authority, talking about the Innovators Summit, Day 1 at Roots Tech. Hi, Genies. It's Fisher. So excited to tell you about our very first Extreme Genes Family History Cruise, September 13th through 18th, 2016. We'll be leaving out of Boston on Royal Caribbean with stops in Bar Harbor, Maine, St. John, New Brunswick, and Halifax, Nova Scotia. On days we're at sea, join me and David Allen Lambert, Chief Genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org, for lectures and roundtables on several genealogical topics. See where your patriot ancestors fought in the Revolution, or where your loyalist ancestors claimed their new homes. For pricing, go to our Extreme Genes Facebook page or visit extremegenes.com. Now is the time to make your reservations, because when the cabins are gone, they're gone. Call Robin at Columbus Travel at 1-800-373-3328, extension 1010. And be sure to ask her about our special pre-cruise excursion in Boston. David and I look forward to seeing you.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
Here it comes, the 6th Annual Roots Tech Conference in Salt Lake City, Utah, February 3rd through 6, 2016, at the Salt Palace Convention Center. The conference, hosted by Family Search International, is the largest family history and technology conference in the world. This year's theme will be celebrating families across generations. It's the perfect place to be inspired to discover, preserve, and share family connections and stories across generations, past, present, and future. At Roots Tech, you'll find some 200 engaging classes with experts from all over the world. Enjoy daily sessions with well-known keynote speakers and learn all about the new tools available to help you in your journey in the massive exhibition hall. Passes start at $29. For more information and to register, visit rootstech.org. Hope to see you February 3rd through 6 in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, the radio root sleuth, with Tom Perry from TMCplace.com. He is our preservation authority. Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm super duper.
I am excited because we're looking right down the barrel at Roots Tech, coming up February 3rd through 6th in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the first day, of course, is the Innovators Summit. And as a techie guy like you are, I mean, that's a big day.
Oh, it is. Some of the neat things that they bring out that you have the opportunity to see. Some things maybe come out, immediately. They're almost ready for release. Some of them won't be out for a while. And some of them are what I refer to as vaporware.
Right.
That they just kind of evaporate. They never really show up.
That's right. A lot of them just don't work out. But nonetheless, there's some incredible ideas that come up at the Innovators Summit, and we're looking forward to that. That'll be on the Wednesday of that week. And then on the 4th through 6th, we'll have all the keynotes. We'll have the classrooms working, and, of course, everything on the show floor. And that is so much fun at the Salt Palace Convention Center. And, of course, we will be there. You're going to have a booth for your place. It's going to be right next to mine, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
With Extreme Genes, and we look so forward to meeting so many of our listeners there. Now, speaking of preservation today, what do you have for us?
Okay, well, one thing, a little bit back on Roots Tech that we're talking about, one of the neat things about the Innovator Summit is some of the stuff will actually be on the floor. So you want to go and check out the stuff, see what's available. And a neat thing about that also is sometimes people like myself that go to these Innovator Summit, sometimes it triggers something and you think, oh, hey, you know what? We can take that and do this with it and go more and just knock the thing out of the park.
New applications.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You really want to watch out and be careful. Sometimes it's like buying a new car. You see this shiny, cool car and you don't take it for a test drive. You say, oh, this is so cool. This is what I've always wanted. You buy it and then you have buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
So don't be forced into stuff at Roots Tech. Don't think, oh, this is what I really want. Oh, I better grab it right now because they say they're almost out of them. If they're almost out of them, wait for the next run. Don't jump into it.
They'll make more.
Exactly, exactly. And if they don't make more, it's good you didn't buy one.
Probably so.
So just be real careful what you're looking for and just always remember the basics. You know, like we've talked about on the show many times before, your basics are you want to take your old things, you want to find out how to preserve them, how to put them on disks, how to put them in the hard drive, how to put them in the clouds, different things like this. You want to learn how you can start making memories for your family, for the people who are living right now, to be able to extend into the future. So you want to be really careful. You don't want to get the cart before the horse. You want to do things in order. The old stuff you have, let's take care of those. Let's get those things preserved. Let's do what we need to with those, whether you want to buy a scanner, whether you want to buy something along those lines. That's what we need to do. We need to take care of the old stuff first.
Well, that's right. And the old stuff is going to be the rarer stuff, always.
Exactly.
Especially because back in the day, we couldn't just video everything everywhere and preserve it on a phone or some kind of device. Home movies, that was about it. And there's a lot of junk associated with it, too. A lot of bad shots, but things that you can actually edit down now and make into something very special.
You know, we're just through Christmas, and Christmas is always crazy for us at all of our stores. People come in, we just have tons of stuff that people find the bug, and then usually January slows down. And as we're going into Roots Tech, we're not finding that out this year. There's a lot of people that made New Year's resolutions to, hey, let's get this old stuff done, and they're doing it, and it's awesome. So be really careful. Don't leapfrog, like you said, over the old stuff and start just working on the new stuff. You need to take care of that stuff because your film's going to fade. Your videotapes are going to wear out. They're going to get dusty. If you live in a high humidity place, you can get mold on them. And there's just so many things that can go wrong. Get that old stuff, and let's get working on it now.
Absolutely. That is great advice. And once again, it's coming up February 3rd through the 6th in Salt Lake City, Utah at the Salt Palace Convention Center. Roots Tech is the largest family history convention in the world by far. And, of course, you're going to be able to follow it online. There's a lot of streaming video from the keynote addresses and some of the classes as well. You can go to rootstech.org and find out more about that. All right, Tom, more when we return in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com. genealogist.com.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks.
And welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, the radio root sleuth, our final segment with our preservation authority, Tom Perry from TMCplace.com. We're kind of getting you ready for Roots Tech coming up February 3rd through 6th in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's the world's largest family history convention. And there is some prep that goes into going to this thing because you're going to be hit from all sides, right, Tom? From all the booths and all the new products that are out. Give us some more advice here.
Okay, one thing you really need to be careful, no matter what kind of trade show you're going to, you need to have a plan of attack. Like we go to the CES show every year in Vegas, and it just gets bigger and bigger, and it's physically impossible to get around to it. You need to put together a game plan. See, what's the most important thing to you? Do you have some old cassettes that you need transferred? Do you have some old VHS tapes? Do you have some photographs? Do you have them already digitized and you want to see how to put them together, how they're best to distribute to your friends and family? There's so many different things. You need to put together a game plan saying, this is my first priority, this is my second, third, fourth, however many priorities you have. And then within each one of those, get more specific. Like say, hey, I have thousands of slides. I want to do it myself. Great, let's do that. So you want to say, okay, your priority is you want to scan your slides. So you need to say, okay, what's my budget? You're going to run into prices that are $200. You're going to run into prices that are over $2,000. So you need to see what your budget is. And one thing that will help, you can call us, you can call other transfer places and say, hey, this is what I have. What would it cost if I pay you to do it? And if you come back and find, okay, I can transfer all my slides for $1,000 and I'm done with it. And for me to buy a good scanner, I'm looking at least $1,500. It's probably not a good thing to do unless you're going to pass around to other people in your family.
Right.
Or you want to rent one. Like the people that we've talked as guests on the show before, they actually rent them out of Florida. And you might think that might be a good way.
Easy photo scan.
Yeah, easy photo scan. Stop by their booth and look at what they have to offer, and then you'll have all these things. Okay, this is what it's going to cost if I send it out to either tmcplace.com or one of these other places, and this is what it's going to cost. If I rent the thing, this is what it's going to cost. This is my time frame. If I buy it, this is what it's going to cost. Can I get my family to invest in it to help us out? Then you know what your budget is, so when you're going there, you're not looking at something that's spending time talking to somebody about a $3,000 scanner. You're just wasting your time there.
That's right. Good point. Yes.
So you want to be really careful. And another thing on your scanner, too, quality versus price. We have people that come into the store that say, I don't care what this costs. I want the absolutely best high-definition XYZ I can get. And that's fine. We're happy to do it. Sometimes it's overkill. So you need to find out what you want. And if you don't know, give us a call and we can explain to you the differences, what we think is the best way for you to go. And then you make the decision of what's going to be best for you, because that will take you from like the $700 price range to the $1,500 price range to the $2,000 to $3,000 one. We had a guy in our store the other day that came in and picked our brain, and he's going to go out and buy one of those real nice scanners that do the slides, and he's going to pay about $4,000. And it's great because he enjoys sitting down, scanning them, playing with them, where we have the other ones we mentioned that come in and say, hey, my son's been telling me he's going to do this for 3 years. Nothing's happened. I want it done, and I need it at a reasonable price. Here's what my budget is, and then we work in what works best for them.
Right. There's so much to really consider when you're looking to invest in a product like that, and the various price ranges, the quality, and, of course, the quantity of material you have to work with. In fact, some people don't have a lot of stuff.
Oh, exactly. And, you know, an important thing, too, with that is you also want to look at what's your end goal. Do you want to put them in your cloud? Do you want to make MP4s, MP3s? How do you want to do this? So you make sure you get the right equipment so you don't get at the end and find, I got this cool software. I'm going to make these MP3s and MP4s. And that software doesn't do it. So do your homework.
Great advice, Tom. As always, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here and hope to see you at Roots Tech.
I cannot believe how fast our time goes on this show. That is it for this week. Thanks once again to Brent Ashworth of Provo, Utah, for talking about his experience in collecting his ancestors and for sharing with us the story of how he obtained the Bible that came across on the Mayflower with Governor William Bradford. And to Ken Krogh, one of the keynote speakers for the upcoming Roots Tech Convention. Catch the podcast if you missed any of it. Talk to you next week. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.